We've got brand new production going on, so I'm trying to figure out when we're actually in the game versus what I'm seeing. I've seen the game for a little bit here.
Okay, there we go.
Okay. Welcome to game number 1 of the series between RecoN and Puppypaw. This is all part of the Elite Gaming Channel's finals. This is the finest in Age of Empires 4 esports you will find. In the color blue, we've got RecoN playing the Abbasids, our brand new civilization. Bunch of new balance changes this week, so it's going to be very interesting to follow this civilization. And on the other side, we've got Puppypaw playing one of the original, let's say the OG OP is what I'll call it, the Mongols.
Oh man, Mongols on this map. This is a civilization that RecoN is going to be more than familiar with on this map, Rocky River. It's a map where RecoN is notorious for trading with the Mongols. But this time around, he is not the player taking the Mongols here. He's going to be in command of the Abbasids. And Fitz, this is a big set for RecoN. He doesn't just need game victories here to advance to the playoffs. He needs a 3-0 set victory over Puppypaw to make it to the playoffs.
Oh boy, so that's a fun narrative for sure. So we'll see Puppypaw bringing out all of the stops here. Was it RecoN or Puppypaw? I just want to make sure I got it right.
It was RecoN. RecoN needs that 3-0 win. On the other side, Puppypaw is going to secure his position in the playoffs with at least one game won. So for him, the path to the quarterfinals is a little easier.
Yeah, I love it. Lidakor and I were just talking before we started here today, and it's very much similar to your end of season playoff kind of matchups that go on. You know, we're both here in the U.S. with the NFL, and it's like you're rooting for that player or this player to win that game or lose this game specifically. So we move on. Bunch of fun little scenarios, but super fun, of course. And you know, it's going to be interesting. There's been balance changes this last week. There is a big patch, and this map is specifically, assuming this isn't a modded version, the fish there in the middle. Yep, there you go. Only 2 in these ponds. So that leaves you a question of, you know, when is it worth it to make a dock, or is it even worth it to make a dock? We used to see docks on all of these little ponds, but with only 2 shoreline fish, not quite as advantageous. But Puppypaw bringing the villager across already. This is the feared Mongol tower rush.
Makes a lot of sense against RecoN here. As you touched on this, RecoN with the Abbasids, he could have justified taking some of the fish for himself. He didn't. But he's also playing very defensive. Puppypaw has a lot of early aggression potential with the Mongols, so he's going to tower this gold mine. RecoN bails out on the position, destroys the mining camp before it could be torched down. He's going up the feudal age with growth, so no rush on the feudal. He's not going to play with the advancement approach. Just gonna grab the extra villagers for his feudal age.
Yep, and you know, deleting that mining camp at the last second, what you actually want to do if you play against the Mongols, you need to, if you think you're gonna lose a building, it's in your interest to delete it as long as the Mongols haven't touched it yet. Like if that Khan had shot 1 arrow into that mining camp, that would have been resources for the raiding Mongols, since that's a civ bonus. So just a little tip there. I know there's a lot of new players coming back to Age of Empires 4 with a lot of the new DLC, so always fun to see players learning these new civs for the first time, or the old civs for the first time. And here comes some more spearmen.
You know, one thing that you need to know about this map is that the players do not really have a backup gold mine to work with. In fact, you do have a secondary one for RecoN, but that's also on the front, and that's usually the case on this map. It's hard to find safe gold deposits, and right now, RecoN is going to be completely cut off from gold.
Yeah, and not to mention, even with trade on a map like this, it's kind of central a little bit. It's not in the back corner, but certainly you're going to need some gold to kickstart that. They even nerfed the training speed of traders just a little bit. But yes, we do see RecoN about to hit the next stage there with that growth. I'm very anxious to watch the Abbid players today, to see the age up options that they choose, with everything just being balanced out a little bit differently. Obviously, no access to gold really here right now, so it doesn't make sense maybe to go for the bazaar, but gonna get a little eco opening. Maybe he'll go for that into the castle age still, but could also be a culture wing.
Now, speaking of gold, Puppypaw, he's going to take one out of the book of RecoN here. Going up with the silver tree, we could be seeing some trade over here, especially considering that RecoN is kind of confined into his base. And even if he starts breaking out with these archers, those don't really have the mobility to really take that trade out. So Puppypaw could easily get a good trade rolling here.
Yep, and going for stone right now. RecoN, I don't know if that's going to be for upgrading one of his towers or if he's actually going to try to go for a second TC with all this pressure. That's a little interesting there early on. Of course, the Mongols. I mean, maybe he just kind of is assuming he's sitting back and to be booming behind this, but I don't know. Not going to have a lot of breathing room here, that's for sure.
Oh, certainly. I feel like this is more of a reaction in many ways to what he might be seeing from his counterpart. I'm actually unsure if he scouted the silver tree, but even if he didn't, I feel like you have to expect some sort of an eco expansion here from the Mongols as well. So you probably want to try and match that to a certain extent here.
Oh, look at this, going out for the gold. He's really trying to get that right now. Okay, so the Khan has scouted that. Nose villagers have moved out to that western gold. We've got some traders for Puppypaw starting off. I noticed he still has that in base. Was he perhaps going for any double production traders? Usually that stone is reserved for units, but now it's moving right now, so probably not. I think maybe those first two were trained together.
Yeah, that's a good point. Oftentimes, players will just skip double trading traders so that they can move the silver tree to the corner immediately. But it looks like Puppypaw went with two initial traders as a double training, and now he's going to focus on production of units. And he's making some Kashyyyk, something that RecoN doesn't really have a lot of things to deal with right now. Only one spearman out there for RecoN to support those archers.
And RecoN is continuing to gather that stone, so it does appear like he's trying to go for a second town center. So going to be making a move here against the Mongols. Of course, that Mongol economy, if you're unable to really harass that trade, that's going to kind of snowball quite a bit over time here. But RecoN, he's got some time before that trade really starts paying off a lot. As you see, he's actually moving his trade route to the top corner there with the silver tree. But RecoN saying, cool, whatever. I'm going to be pinned down. He's got archers, he's got spears, and he's going to be working towards his second TC. But I'm just looking like there's no berries, there's no deer. Yeah, he's going to drop it in base next to the wood line. So when he runs out of that original food, he'll have to move to farms unless he gets some map control here.
Yeah, indeed, that's going to be a big thing very soon here. And we know that farm transitions are essentially moments where you're extremely vulnerable. And that's something that can be exploited by your opponent. For now, it's a very, very compact base here from RecoN, and this is something that Puppypaw is aware of. RecoN is going to have limited resources available that are safe. In fact, right now, both of his gold mines are once again denied.
Yep, and there we go. A little bit of a push there from the Kashyyyk diving in. Of course, they gain HP as they do damage. So you actually see those little plus, those green pluses above the Kashyyyk there. Very excellent raiding unit because while you're taking on town center fire, whatever it might be, you get a little bit of extra HP as you're doing some damage. So they can actually survive a run by like this for a little bit.
Yes, certainly, and that's a big thing. Being able to keep these premium units alive early game and just raiding over and over again is immensely valuable. That's exactly what Puppypaw is trying to exploit over here, but looks like that one Kashyyyk went down here. RecoN is actually investing into a battering ram here, so he's going to be heavily committed when it comes to taking down those towers.
Yep, and of course for the Abbasids as well as the Abbasids, they don't have to pay for siege engineering, so it doesn't even need a blacksmith to do this. He can right out of the gate train this ram up and deal with some towers. But man, oh man, look at the military production from Puppypaw. He's just streaming units across the field, and as that eco gets a little stronger, I'm going to be watching very closely that military graph at the top. So he's kind of got control of this gold expansion. Here comes a ram, a lot of archers. He might have enough. I'm looking at, it looks like 12 archers for Puppypaw as well, but I don't think those are all in position quite yet. But I'm not sure if he's gonna be able to get this tower. Let's see what happens here. We've got the spears and archers moving into position. Ram starting to put some damage on the tower. The Khan very low on HP. Will it go down? Archer takes it out. The Khan does go down, folks. You know what that means. Kashyyyk going off with the charge, but pulling back, not going to let the spearmen get within striking distance. And now the spearmen left exposed when that tower goes down. Going to be picking those off. And RecoN able to get some military gains here. And the Kashyyyk trying to sweep in behind, but able to clear out that tower. Probably some nice field advantage for him right now.
And a lovely fight there for RecoN, cleaning up the tower, also getting rid of the Khan. And they definitely took away a lot of pressure from his base. Now, He's facing a scary army here. 4 Kashyyyks, 16 archers against his own 10 archers and 6 spearmen. That does not look very good, especially when you consider that RecoN does not have access to gold right now, or at least he hasn't yet started mining gold. So blacksmith upgrades, those won't be a thing anytime soon for him.
Yep. And I just saw in chat someone said, I'm new here. What's the con going down mean? And so I do want to clear that up since I know there are a lot of new viewers I don't want to alienate. It's just an ongoing meme we have with the con dying, equaling a pretty quick GG, but that's not the case. The con will come back. And we've seen Mongol players defy the odds and still win despite losing that con early on as a little special unit. Just like Joan of Arc, the con just keeps coming back for more.
You just can't kill him, right?
Ah, I did it. He did it. Off to a good start here. Okay, so we see those Kashyyyk coming out, 4 of them now. And I mean, the Kashyyyk, quite a good raiding unit, but then you've also got the Abbasids with really nice spearmen. Actually, the Abbasids, they have access to the phalanx as well. I'm actually haven't played a ton of them because they've been so OP. Yeah, they got the phalanx as well. So this makes them a very good spearman as far as taking these engagements. But it's the archer counts that's really going to decide a lot of this. If you lose all your spears to the archers, then those Kashyyyk can just do whatever they want.
Now, the big thing here is that RecoN isn't able to move out of his base. He's still back at home. And when you look at the actual eco numbers, it's neck and neck, 52 versus 51. But that's a little deceiving. RecoN is depleting resources inside his base with limited map control. And on the other side, Puppypaw has an extremely effective economy in the form of traders, something that has not yet been contested by RecoN.
Yep, and he sees it though. You can see his scout says, yep, we got merchants moving on up here. So he's going to want to do something, but he doesn't even have horsemen. I don't think, does he even have a stable? I mean, trying to get over there and raid, that's going to be so hard, or he's going to put his infantry in a tough position. And, you know, the Mongols, they don't have walls. You've seen RecoN doing all this walling up. Mongols have no walls, so they have to use their army's mobility, their aggression to pin their enemy to be where they want them to just protect things, just like the trade. So for Puppypaw, you actually see his archers moving. He thought that he might go for a run north, but the thing is, by the time RecoN takes that infantry death ball and marches all the way north to raid that trade, Puppypaw is reinforcing his army, and then he can get a flank in, get a surround, and if he wipes that army out, I mean, that you can just about bet that's probably going to be GG in a lot of situations.
Oh, there is no scout accompanying this army for RecoN. His line of sight is limited. On the other side, Puppypaw has the con. He knows every move that RecoN is making here, and RecoN has no idea that he's being hunted right now.
And yeah, just look at that army count. You can see that we've got the Kashyyyk, we've got tons of archers. If he gets a surround on RecoN's army here, like that's definitely going to be going down. So he does see the scout. They know they're about to square off, but archers on archers trading fire. RecoN realized this is not a fight he wants. This is exactly what I'm talking about, getting caught out of position. And I like how you put it. He was hunted down by that Mongol player, just staying just out of line of sight while using the line of sight of that con. And now he is pulling back, but for now gave his base a little bit less pressure, but he hasn't moved out from that. He's not taking a berry expansion or moving on to the deer or anything like that. So that food slowly dwindling down and having to go to a farm transition, you know, early on, as you see, he's gradually doing. It's going to be a slower gather rate than if he was out on some of these natural resources.
Also, the longer the game gets, the more valuable that trade is. And the fact that Puppypaw is now getting away with a lot of traders is very concerning for RecoN. 16 traders out there at minute 15. That's a juggernaut of a gold economy for Puppypaw.
Yeah, and it's in the corner. I mean, and it seems like as of right now, no threat of it. So here we go. Looks like the Mongol is going to be standing just out of the gates of the Abbasid. Khan shooting that that fire arrow, so additional damage coming from that Mongol army. Look at all the dead blue units there on the ground as he works on sieging through that palisade wall. RecoN's about to have some company. It actually was looking like RecoN was trying to macro for an age up. He actually has the gold to age up if he wants, but it's not going to matter as we see the Mongols moving in right now. He doesn't have the food needed. He's going to continue to move up. Now, Puppypaw doesn't have a ton of siege other than those Kashyyyk, which you can see they're doing some siege. I'm actually watching the archers taking down the ram. Kind of funny.
Yeah, at this point, RecoN is just waiting, hoping that his opponent is going to just fall back for just a little moment so that he can grab some
Yeah.
siege and he can go up to Costlage. He still has advancement available, so he can speed up his Costlage timing very nicely. And he's got multiple barracks to start picking off some Gulams. But the problem he's facing right now is that he is banking up a lot of resources, but he does have a very underwhelming army compared to what Puppypaw has. 14 heavy cavalry units caching, 55 archers from Puppypaw against just 36 archers from RecoN. RecoN cannot fight this in Feudal Age. He needs that castle, but even that is just going to be extremely difficult to get to.
And even just killing those few houses has actually housed RecoN. He's actually building another one right now. So no military's coming out, no villagers coming out. It might just be for a few seconds, but that all will add up here, especially when we talk about a series that RecoN was maybe wanting to 3-0. So Puppypaw, he's checking the berries. It does look like RecoN tried to move out at some point. I didn't even see those villagers there, but yeah, good luck. You got to move back inside your walls when you got the Mongols hunting around out here. That Mongol trade with no end in sight going to keep snowballing forward. Puppypaw not only matching, having a larger military right now, also has more economy. I mean, this is just really, really good for the Mongols. But we do see a culturally advancement, so maybe RecoN will pull something out of his pocket here, but still doesn't really have access to gold to take advantage of any of those castle techs.
That's the big problem. And essentially, the textbook response to a player rushing Castle Age is taking away their gold. That takes out their ability to research the Castle Age upgrades for their units. That takes out their ability to train those premium Castle Age units. And RecoN, with only 200 gold in the bank, he's not going to be able to get much out of Castle Age, especially when you consider that Puppypaw is also aging up with the Kurotai.
Yep, and here we go. Puppypaw diving in. Probably suspects something going on. I mean, RecoN's been very passive. He didn't try to take any shots during that last move forward of the Mongols when they took out all those houses in the mining camp. Okay, there we go. Next age is up, and RecoN's got a little bit of gold in the bank. Well, that's Puppypaw reaching the castle age, but RecoN should be shortly. It just unfortunately does not show on the UI for reasons we cannot explain, but there we go. He's in the next stage, and you see him immediately getting those archer upgrades.
Yeah, it's too little too late, though. They'll just be neck and neck when it comes to the quality of these armies, but the size is so much larger for Puppypaw, and he's actually going to commit before RecoN could even get the upgrades.
Yeah, and those Keshik upgrades coming in. Oh, man. Moving in there. They don't even care. They're just kind of dancing back and forth, trying to get the spearmen to come forward so those archers can take some shots on them. But for right now, Puppypaw just sending it, diving under that town center. We do have some camels coming out, so those will help with taking out... I'm looking at this. Puppypaw doesn't have any spearmen in this army, so those camels actually going to be a quite effective unit in this battle right now. Could be just the ticket of what he needs to maybe hold this for a little longer, but he took some heavy losses.
I feel like those camels were just a couple of seconds too late. By the time they arrived, most of the archers were decimated. And now it's just a raw numbers game. 47 archers against just a handful of camels and archers out there. And don't forget, RecoN doesn't have gold to work with. He cannot sustain the production of camels for long, especially when the Kurotai is now positioned right next to his starting TC.
Yeah, I almost wonder if, had he been able to age up maybe a minute earlier, perhaps he could have got some kind of timing with Gulam or the camels or anything. But with that, game number one going to be going to Puppypaw with a quite dominant Mongol performance here today over the Abbasids.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of Mongol trade recently in maps styled like this, Rocky River, for instance, but also the previous quote-unquote versions of this map. And it is very dominant when the opponent is confined into its own base. And I feel like there was a great level of synergy between the Tower Rush taking away the gold mine from RecoN and him having to commit to cleaning this up, and the trade coming up from Puppypaw. RecoN was never able to touch those traders, and Puppypaw just boomed away with this game, plain and simple.
Yeah, and I mean, talk about one of the best tower rushing civs in the game, the Mongols, up against those Abbasids. You know they're going to be out on their gold, whether it's for a fast castle or it's for the bazaar. So just really a nice matchup here. for the start of the series. So we look at that graph there. Military didn't even stand a chance. He just took his time with trade behind that. I almost wonder maybe if he was able to get some horsemen out, could have ran the Mongols around a little bit, maybe killed a few traders, but I think it's just a tough position to be in when you're playing the Abbasids there. So that gets us ready for game number 2. And we've got the Rus versus the Rus on Gorge. What do you think about this matchup?
It's gorgeous, I must say. Rus versus Rus. Oh man. Um, I feel like a lot could come down to how you approach this matchup, which is a very vague statement in many ways, but hear me out. Gorge is a fairly unique map in that you only have one primary gold mine that you can work with. All the backup gold is very far away from your starting base. And as a consequence, early aggression is something that pays off a lot better than it does on many other maps.
Yeah.
And you know, the Rus have access to wooden fortresses. We've seen players playing very aggressive strategies built around those. And I'm curious if we are going to see either of these players trying to play very aggressive, take away that gold mine, and then just start playing this night game. Or perhaps just take away the gold mine and then focus fully on archers, knowing that the enemy probably won't have any heavy cavalry to deal with that.
I'm trying to compare the color of the Rus flag to Lidakor's shirt here. I mean, we're just a few hues off. We need to get that. That's kind of like the Santa Claus's coat color of red for the Rus flag there on the UI.
I should have taken a Santa hat, to be honest.
I'd be burning up here if I was wearing a Santa hat, especially with these games. But you've mentioned it. Being aggressive on this map, very strong. Not only because of that gold expansion, but you even that wood line behind, you can't escape. There's no like moving back to the deer behind your base or berries behind your base. Everything's very much to the side and to the front of what you're working with. So we'll see how these two players play this in this mirror. And I think we're getting ready to dive into this game number 2 of the EGC finals between RecoN and Puppypaw. As it stands right now, RecoN didn't do so great in that first game, but we'll see what Puppypaw is able to do here in game number 2. And it's a mirror, so no blaming the civilizations. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, we are on Gorge here, folks. A map that we've seen a lot in this tournament. A map that has played out in many different ways. We've seen some very aggressive games, but we've also seen some games that went all the way to like almost a 1-hour mark. So I'm actually curious how this is going to be approached by either of these players. Of course, Rus mirrors, we are going to have a massive race towards those deer packs, as the players will be working towards extra bounty for themselves. And Fitz, bounty, it's always important for the Rus, but it is even more significant in a mirror matchup. The difference between these two players in this game could come down to how much bounty you're able to get in Dark Age.
Yep, so what Lidakor is talking about there is you see that gold coming in. The Rus get gold for killing the huntables, as well as a bounty, which is a overall hunting bonus. So there's 3 different tiers that they'll be gaining up. So that's really massive, especially as it gets longer in the game. Also on this map, you've got that really thick, chonky wood line right behind their town centers. So they put those hunting cabins on there, and right away, they've got some nice passive gold generation. So I think there's multiple reasons we're seeing Rus play there. And look at that, scouts squaring off, running across the middle, trying to pick up all that bounty. Maybe we can take a peek at it here after the dust settles a little bit.
You know, one thing that you are looking at is a wheelbarrow that is coming in for Puppypaw right now. And that's often an indicator of how successful you are when it comes to collecting bounty. You need to get that gold feudal age, which obviously requires some gold for you. And also, if you can, you want to squeeze in wheelbarrow. But if you are very unsuccessful collecting bounty, then you have to just skip wheelbarrow. The fact that we have wheelbarrow coming in for both players just goes to show that we have a relatively even split of bounty between the two. RecoN, maybe a little upper hand, 188 gold in the bank right now compared to Puppypaw's 148. Puppy needs some extra hunt though, because right now he's actually low on bounty. And you see, he actually has the food for feudal age, but not the gold. This is a bad position for Puppy in many ways. He doesn't want to cancel wheelbarrow, but he simply doesn't have the gold for feudal age yet.
Yep. I like that little detail. Lidakor on point with the analyzation here. Yeah, because you're using that gold for wheelbarrow, but you also need the gold to age up. And the Rus are greedy. They don't want to use their villagers to mine gold like peasants. Oh, look at this.
Oh, that's so bad. That is
man.
really not the textbook ruse start over here for Puppy. Now, he gets some passive gold income from the hunting cabins as well, and he only needs 6 gold. But still, this is not the optimal ruse start by any means. And you can see that in the Feudal Age timings. RecoN is like 20% towards Feudal Age already, whereas Puppypaw is yet to start building his landmark.
Yep, but at least he had wheelbarrows, so he walked a little faster to go get that gold. And there we go. I'm assuming that's gonna be a Kremlin, and in fact, it is gonna be protecting the gold and the stone. He can also spawn out some Kremlin gremlins with that. I'm assuming RecoN on the other side, probably going with the same landmark as well. Looks like he's positioned his between gold and berries there on the southwest side. So very much a mirror so far. A little bit of a difference who's aging up with 4 versus 5 vills.
Yeah, Puppy has to commit more villagers to that landmark simply because he needs to catch up when it comes to the Feudal Age timing. This matchup often comes down to knight numbers, and you don't want to start falling behind in that knight race, so he needs to catch up in Feudal Age timing.
Yep. Okay, so we've got the Feudal Age underway here with the Rus Mirror. Scouts have just about killed all of the huntables on the map. Can we take a little peek at the bounty of both players? I think it's going to be pretty similar, but maybe let's take a look and see what the tiers are. Okay, so we got 260. That's going to be a tier 2. Okay, Puppypaw trapped in tier 1 for right now, so that's going to be quite a considerable difference as far as those gather rates. So RecoN has a nice little eco advantage in regards to going for those hunts.
Yeah, that just goes to show why RecoN was able to afford the wheelbarrow and Feudal Age at the same time, and why Puppypaw had to move out to grab some gold from the gold mine. At the end of the day, all is nice over here, but as you said, the second level of bounty bonus that RecoN is able to get is not something that Puppypaw has access to right now. First night already on the way here for RecoN. On the other side, Puppypaw is actually playing for a multiple town center build. He's on stone. And interestingly, he's taking a forest on the front of his base, something that doesn't usually spawn when you play this map. Usually you only have that one forest at the back, but it looks like Puppypaw does have that little forest to the front. And the reason why this is important is because if he places his lumber camp to the back of his base, he would not have the Kremlin buff on that lumber camp. This way he does.
Yep. Man, just barely too. Yeah, but he gets that. Very, very nice there. RecoN going for some optimistic walls there. Look at this, trying to wall his opponent in. And he might get away with it considering the fact that Puppypaw has gone all eco here, but he's going for the deer expansion. And it looks like yep, here comes the knight. Is he be able to stop this? He has the Kremlin nearby. He can always pop the Kremlin gremlins if he really wants to. But let's see what happens here. RecoN charging in. Knight going to get the charge off. Is he able to get to the villager? He wasn't able to get the charge, so that's going to be some bonus damage
villager's
missing
being pulled
there.
here. I think you just need to commit here. You have to finish that town center, but even this is going to be insufficient for Puppy, and here is why. Look at the placement of those walls. One thing that you will have on your side for RecoN will be the sacred sites. He's actually walling in the middle behind the sacred site. He probably wanted to wall in front. But I have the gut feeling that his response to the 2TC build from Puppypaw was going to be rushing Castle Age, capturing the sacred sites, and then starting the sacred site victory condition countdown to force Puppy to make a move.
We see Puppypaw actually did call out some of those Kremlin gremlins. Might be enough to pick off a villager here if RecoN doesn't pull this. And yeah, they're running, they're gonna get away. Maybe the knight can tank the damage. He's trying the villager. Oh my
body blocks.
Gosh. How much HP is left? He's almost gone.
Yoink!
Oh. Let's get F's in chat, everybody, for RecoN's villager. Doesn't make it for today. The wall builder goes down, and what do we have here? RecoN going for the famous Rus trade. Not something you see every day here out of the Rus, but he's secured the whole map. Maybe that's why he went so aggressive there on the walls. So going to be going for traders behind this, I guess, 2TC of Puppypaw. So that's how he's going to try to keep up with that economy.
He needs those walls because he's facing knights here. You see Puppypaw is making cavalry. And this is a big difference between this game and the previous one. If you don't have these walls, Puppypaw will be able to raid your trade with the cavalry, and then it just won't work. But if you have these walls up and Puppypaw cannot raid it, as we've seen in the previous game to a certain extent, trade is a great way of countering a multiple town center build. Multiple town centers take a long time to return the investment. You need to make the villagers, those villagers need to gather the resources to offset the cost of the TC, and so on. Trade gives you a much more immediate return, especially when you couple it to a quick castle age and picking up the relics.
And we did see a second villager go down there, so Puppypaw gets a little push. I actually wonder if he knows this trade's going on, because this is, I would say, a little unorthodox for the Rus. Not something we're used to seeing. Might suspect something's weird with all the walling that's going on, but, you know, you can't quite glean that. Puppypaw looking to maybe get a third villager. Is he going to do a little bit of a quick micro there, trying to keep the villager alive, but down it goes. 3 vills. Already died for RecoN. Puppypaw able to do a lot with just, you know, a gremlin, a knight here and there.
Yeah, he's definitely accomplishing a lot with only a handful of units. He's yet to scout the trade, though, and I think this is the critical piece here. Oh, this is why the trader is heading to the north. And a scout got picked off. The knight has very limited line of sight. RecoN, he's actually willing to sacrifice villagers, I feel, just to make sure that the trade never gets discovered.
He wants to finish that wall at all costs. I think he's even adding a double wall there. Yeah, we're actually seeing another layer of wall, so he wants to make sure he really protects that flank, and I think he's now completed that. The boar going down, not only has he secured trade, but basically knows that he can go out for all these hunts, go for the boar, whatever he wants. No really worries of raids other than if the walls go down. Puppypaw is now going to have to make a decision. Is he going to try to siege the wall? Where is he going to try to do that? Will RecoN add some gates in to try to counteract it? But now it's a little bit of a boom fest. That's what's going to be going on as we hit about the 10-minute mark here. Very different builds out of these two players. 2 TC for Puppypaw. 2 markets plus you know, the original town center for RecoN. So different takes at the economy, and I guess we'll see which one's better here in the long run.
Yeah, RecoN has 5 knights to match Puppy's 7, and Puppy's very heavily invested into knights. I feel like Puppy may have gotten a glimpse of that trade, or maybe he's suspecting that RecoN is up to something. Don't forget, RecoN isn't attacking, and RecoN is also on 1 TC to Puppy's knowledge. So Puppy must think that something must be going on here, and RecoN is known for someone that likes to trade. So I have the feeling that Puppypaw committing so heavily to the knights is actually because he senses that RecoN is trading.
Yep, and we do see another layer of walls. RecoN looking to build a little bit of a labyrinth here behind his base. He's actually building a secondary layer all the way on the backside of his, near his TC. And he's going to need maybe a few more knights out in the field to try to counter this for right now. Putting a lot of resources, of course, into training those traders. And I mentioned this earlier, but the train time for trade was slightly nerfed this week, if I do recall correctly.
This wall was... RecoN is just like, okay, you break through my first layer. Guess what? I have a second layer.
Boom. Gets the charge off right now. Puppypaw fighting underneath that Kremlin, and he definitely, I think he saw that trader by now, knows something is up here.
I mean, if anything, he should know by the walls. No, it's like, this is a crazy statement, but no normal human is going to wall like that if you're not trading.
And I'm actually looking to see those knights. They don't have any upgrades right now, so this is just knight on knight action. And we've got some low HP Puppypaw's knights, but who's going to come ahead in this fight? We've got the reinforcements of RecoN coming in. It's very close, but it looks like Puppypaw has the numbers advantage there, despite a few of those being quite low on HP.
Yeah, RecoN hasn't really been focusing those low HP knights up until this point. That's why the numbers are so good for Puppy, but as RecoN focuses them down, suddenly numbers equalize. Now, one thing that's alarming for RecoN is that, as you touched on this, the trading time was nerfed, and also, in general, RecoN lost a couple of villagers. He was a little delayed with his trade. So he's actually yet to leverage this really. Whereas on the other side, Puppypaw, he's just rushing Castle Age off the back of using that boar, something that his counterpart has only now taken. And with that, he is going to have the tech advantage. He can start securing relics, sacred sites. He's also going to have a lot of extra food now coming in from the high trade house.
Yep, so Castle Age is on the way for Puppypaw. And RecoN not having a very large standing army, which You kind of want to have a defense force if you're really invested in this trade, which takes so much map to contain. It looks like there's a gap down on the south side of this wall. It looks like between those two tree lines, if we do a rotate, oh, maybe not. I think it's covered. Okay. Unless those knights squeeze. You never can tell sometimes.
Yeah, the easiest way to do this is just to send a unit there and then right-click outside and see if the unit path just finds the path through the forest. If it's not going to go through there, then it means that this entire area is locked down. Now, Castle Age should come in soon here for RecoN. He needs that very badly. For now, he's just grabbing the blacksmith upgrades. He does have the resource income to get to Castle Age in about 1.5 minutes at maximum. But by that time, there is going to be the Castle Age upgrade in for Puppypaw. He only has knights, though, and I think this is a bit of an issue for Puppy. If he had a couple of spearmen or crossbows, something that's a little bit more threatening to the knights of RecoN, this would be a lot more problematic of a position for RecoN. For now, I think his numbers advantage in terms of knights, plus the Kremlin, town center fire, militias being available, that should be enough to hold off an assault from Puppy.
Yep, and we see the high trade house, of course. The landmark of choice. Is he building it on the north side between those two wood lines? Is that where he's building it? Yeah, there he goes. So gonna be getting some gold out of that. Of course, it's like the hunting cabin. It gets gold from trees. That one's quite a nice one there. What, 170 gold per minute, 58 trees covered by that right now. Yeah, I can't help but to think, I don't know, as I go in the later stages of the game, would you rather have a bunch of traders or a bunch of villagers? I feel like Puppypaw is bound to make some maybe some pushes through the walls on either side and start to really, feels like could maybe hit some raids that could start to bring this trade to a halt. But for right now, RecoN's had it locked down. He's been doing his tower defense, his wall defense, drawing walls all over the map. Now you see him in the Castle Age as well, going to be grabbing his upgrades. And for right now, definitely a very even match. Oh, is there all that? No.
Yeah, I feel like the big thing is that on this map, you will run out of gold eventually. Obviously, that applies to all maps. But on this map in particular, it's actually very easy to raid those gold deposits. You don't have a lot of safe gold mines close to your base. So especially if RecoN finds a way into Puppypaw's base, he could find a lot of villagers on those gold mines. Whereas as long as his trade is safe, he's going to be in a good spot.
And RecoN going to force a big fight before that wall goes down. Going to be charging in there with his knights. You do see Puppypaw actually has a warrior monk, so actually dishing out some additional healing during this fight. RecoN looks like working on getting that warrior's fortitude, but not going to have it before this fight completes. He has more reinforcing knights on the way, and this might have been enough to save his wall from going down for now. But Puppypaw going to turn around and go for it, and he might just start running around and start popping traders left and right is what I expect to see. I'm watching the destruction value in the bottom. It's very, still quite even. Here comes those Kremlin gremlins. Really could turn this fight, and I think it's going to help him secure this. Even a villager coming up to repair the wall.
Nice timing by RecoN. He saved this wall. He had to commit to a fight that he really didn't want to, though. It was before Boyar's Fortitude finished, and he was facing a warrior monk, which gave the Saint's blessing to the enemy army.
Yep.
So he actually took a lot of casualties here, but he keeps his walls alive, keeps his trade alive, and that is essentially his lifeline in this game. Militia's also getting a lot of value for themselves here, intercepting reinforcements, getting some good hits on those knights. And RecoN, now with Boyar's Fortitude, should have no issues chasing down these raiding parties.
Yeah.
Yoink!
Trying to get the relic. I think he even picked off like 2 crossbows or something with that militia, so it's a nice value. Here comes that Wololo. He's going to have to back off for now. Continues to be a knight spam game going on there, and Puppypaw having a lot of knights. If you look at the military count on the top of the screen, Puppypaw has a lot more, and those militia were only temporary. I'm trying to set up a tower in the middle of the map during all this. He didn't finish the tower.
Yeah, he needs that tower. I feel like he's running low on food. And that could be catastrophic for RecoN right now. Losing food means losing momentum, and he's already under a lot of pressure.
Yeah, and traders continuing to not be disrupted. They've been trading the whole game. Here comes those Kremlin gremlins. I think that's part of what we're seeing with the military count. I was like, that jumped up quite a bit very quickly. So gremlins coming out, going for that tower. Gonna still have plenty of time. I don't know if they can do enough siege damage though on that, but now we're seeing that landmark spawning the units for both sides. Villagers being pulled. Going for the berries? It looks like they've got baskets in their hand, but there's a war going on here. This is not a place for civilians. The villagers may be taking some damage here. Maybe a little confused where they are, but it looks like RecoN able to clean the rest of this up. Gonna jump inside the tower, and it almost looked like those were a shift click from afar or something.
Yeah, he's desperate for food. His food income is dropping very quickly. So I feel like this is just the moment where he needed to take that food no matter what. He did have a spring golden placement on that tower though, so it helped a lot cleaning this force up. But he's now on the back foot, you feel. He's got 2,000 gold per minute, but it's near useless if you cannot have a unit production, a good unit production, because you're lacking food. And he is also now very much behind when it comes to the unit compositions. He's still exclusively on knights, and now he's facing a lot of crossbows from Puppypaw.
Yeah, I think he's buying food is what we just saw there. So he's got a lot of gold coming in with that trade, but of course those values going to get less and less great as he's spending more and more gold on food. So trying to slap a lot of villagers there on the berries. Has he taken the deer there on the north side yet? I mean, the berries are going to be a little bit slower than deer, but I guess that's just more exposed, but maybe could drop a tower there.
I don't think he's taken that. The other thing that he hasn't really taken is relics. Despite the fact that those initial walls from RecoN were super aggressive, he's going to be just on a single relic as opposed to the 4 that Puppypaw has.
That's kind of surprising. Also kind of surprising he didn't just take one villager and maybe re-wall that gap in the middle. But I think he just hasn't been able to get the military advantage. A lot of knights here for RecoN though. Yeah, looks like Puppypaw's gonna back off. Gonna get the charge off. Does some damage. Puppypaw's forces are split up for right now. Gonna be running mid. Lots of crossbows there, but a nice little wall segment gonna stop those crossbows from intercepting the knights. And he can kind of dance around that tower to do damage to the crossbow. But those villagers not gonna have garrison space. Knight's gonna come in. Doesn't look like he goes for the raid though. Villager's gonna just keep on gathering the berries, so able to take advantage of those static defenses.
Yeah, this is the window where RecoN is going to start leveraging that trade a lot though. And now he's got a functional trade, it hasn't really been raided. He's got good eco numbers there as well. Once he makes a farm transition, his eco is going to be a juggernaut. In fact, you see it now. 2,300 gold per minute, 1,400 food per minute. Kind of on par with Puppypaw, but let's not forget, Puppypaw is depleting his gold deposits very quickly. And actually, part of the reason why Puppypaw's gold income is so good is because he managed to secure 4 relics. If RecoN was a little bit more successful with the relics, the difference between the two players would be even more significant.
I'd like to call out the wonderful berry walling went on there. You know, just recently, you couldn't put walls straight up against berries and use them as blockers, but as of right now, you can. It's kind of weird he didn't try to maybe build it to the north a little bit to protect those villagers, but using that berries, they stop knights. They got thorns.
Yeah, a bit of an attempt here to break through by RecoN, and this is what I was trying to touch on recently. The trade for RecoN is safe, but on this map you only have a handful of gold deposits, so it's actually very easy for RecoN to find targets to raid.
Yep, so he takes down the wall, going to retreat to his own. Double layer of walls here. But
he's gonna go Imperial. Just look at the resources, Fitz. He's going Imperial, man.
Yep, that's gonna be massive. So maybe we're getting the answer to what's better in the long run, and I think you nailed it. He's just gonna keep attacking that gold, right? It gives him a big target to what to go after. I mean, on the other side, I guess, though, if you break through any of these walls, trades all over the place if you want to try to find target. Puppypaw farming in the north side. RecoN delaying wall, I guess, farming to the very last minute because he's been slowly adding walls here mid, but he's still eating the berries in the middle of the map. He's still got a deer he could go for if he wants to. We're going to be building the Spasskaya Tower. And why is he doing this? Well, that will offer him some stone walls. So a little defense here in his base whereby his farming eco, but some stone walls is, I feel like, maybe his greater incentive as he has lots of trade on the map.
I was flirting with the idea of the Spasskaya Tower here, but I was like, no, man, he's just gonna go high armory. I feel like Spasskaya would be such an awkward choice. But yeah, stone walls is definitely one reason as to why this would be valuable. The other reason, of course, is that you're under a lot of pressure here, so it's also going to act as a great static point of defense here in the middle of the farming eco. On the other side, though, now Puppypaw knows that his opponent is an Imperial, so he needs to strike. And that Spaskatar only covers a very tiny part of RecoN's eco. This is the window in which Puppypaw could try to break into the trade.
He also has a Treb already online, so that will start dishing out some damage, force RecoN to spend the wood he really doesn't have, repairing that landmark should he choose to. Getting those knight upgrades though, and this might be his moment to strike when he gets his knights upgraded. He's also grabbing all his blacksmith upgrades as well, so we see all those upgrades for the knights. Still really committing to a one unit composition. He's got no crossbows, and there's a lot of crossbows at this point, upgraded or not, for those knights. Those crossbows will be able to kite and do some damage, but I guess we'll see if RecoN's able to overwhelm. I've seen mass roost knights before defeat their counters quite easily.
Especially when you have the elite upgrade and pole axes on them. But Puppypaw is on the way to Imperial. If he gets to Imp, he gets his own elite knight upgrade, he gets his crossbow upgrade. That could be a game changer. Problem is that he doesn't really have a good point to fight at, although he might take this engagement in the choke point here. RecoN deletes the walls to open up the playing field.
Yeah, look at that. Gonna be trying to get up on those crossbows. Crossbows trying to kite back, but no spearman. Maybe a good time for the Kremlin Gremlins if he were to activate him, but he's probably just really busy microing this army. And let's see what happens. There goes those Kremlin Gremlins trying to stop those knights as they push forward. They've got all their upgrades, and for RecoN, he needs to do plenty of damage here. And we do see the Gremlins able to get up on those knights. Crossbows continuing to kite, picking off a knight every time they back up. And I think, I don't know, Puppypaw's still got plenty of crossbows, but those knights could have run away for a long time and just play keep away from crossbows.
And that's what they have to do. RecoN is realizing that his opponent is an Imperial, elite upgrade for the crossbows are coming in. There's no way he can take a direct fight, but those crossbows cannot chase down the knights, and he could do a lot of eco damage here. He has to do a lot of eco damage, because Puppypaw's eco is more than serviceable.
Yep, so right now we see him running around trying to find those farms. Look on the north side, he's actually building walls around those farms in the corner. I like the little palisade connectors there.
Yeah, it's like... talk about walls snapping to resources, and that wall is like snapped to the gold mine 20 times.
Yeah. Okay, so we got knights running around everywhere. Puppypaw trying to close off this gap, but it looks like RecoN's going to run in once again. And I guess we'll see how these raids go for him in the end. As you start to see these players get closer to pop max, we've got like what? Similar eco counts on both sides, 120, 120, but one's a trading eco, one's more of a traditional villager eco. We see those crossbows able to make contact with those knights. I bet he's glad he made those walls now.
Yeah, he's also grabbing biology, so these knights will be now extremely tanky with Boyar's Fortitude, pole axes, biology. Yep. These guys will be juggernauts. And normally, this is not sustainable in an open land map game. But because RecoN already has the trade set up, he can spam knights indefinitely. And all he has to do is just keep those walls open and keep raiding the opponent's eco. And you see, Puppypaw is now struggling to keep track of all these knights raiding his base.
Yeah, crossbow's just not going to have the speed, and he can afford to lose some knights. And I see, look at that, a lot of villagers out in the open. He's actually, there was no room left at the keep. Okay, and going to get some raids here. And now that eco count going to start decreasing a little bit for Puppypaw, and he's got to train his villagers back. Look at that, we got a raid here, we got a raid on the south side, we got a raid to the east. Puppypaw's just trying to put out the fire. And, you know, maybe he can eventually, but every time he does this, he's idling food, he's idling wood, gold, whatever it is, while RecoN continues to gather.
Yeah, for Puppypaw to survive, he needs walls, 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 because right now, he doesn't have the mobility to keep track of these knights. If he launches a direct attack against the base of RecoN, RecoN cannot stop 50, 60 crossbows with just a handful of knights. But as long as he can run into the eco of Puppypaw, Puppypaw simply cannot launch a counterattack.
He's even trained some horsemen to help catch these knights a little better. And it looks like he is finally going to take down a little raiding force. He even built a little palisade wall on his own base to kind of route those reinforcements. So down to 94 villagers right now. RecoN quite up on the villager count.
Yeah, RecoN definitely has the upper hand in terms of eco. And the alarming thing is that Puppypaw is now very low on gold. That's where that sustainability element comes in for RecoN. His trading eco is fully set up, and Puppypaw is starting to run low on gold deposits. This is exactly the kind of approach that RecoN had in mind when he started to trade early.
A nice choke point for Puppypaw to get some kills on those knights. I just took a peek at the worker kills on the south side. 48 kills for RecoN compared to the 8. You know, Puppypaw had all the raids in the early stages of this game, but RecoN is bringing the pain. Now with some bombards, but taking like a head-on fight is kind of hard right now, considering the fact that he doesn't want to stand and fight against those crossbows right now. I don't know, maybe adds in some mangonels all of a sudden. I mean, he certainly has the gold for it. But
he needs to do something. Like, a straight-up fight with all these crossbows is just not a thing for him.
Yeah.
And it's not like Puppypaw's eco is catastrophic. It's not great by any means, but it's still serviceable. He does have some gold income as well. And RecoN has been losing a lot of these precious knights. He can still replenish them, but you see he's actually struggling for food. He's depleting those food deposits way too quickly. And in a direct battle, this army stands no chance without mangonels.
Going for 4 bombards. Yeah, not a single mangonel. He's also getting his chemistry upgrade, so he'll be yeeting away some houses. Actually, might house Puppypaw a little bit here for just a little bit if he can pop a few more of those. I'm sure he's going to slap some more houses in the back of his base, I'd imagine, but he is actually housed for just a few seconds here at the least. But man, a juicy mangonel shot right now. Look at those crossbows, nice and grouped up in that choke point. Maybe he's just working on eliminating the choke. Now look, no, there's no choke point now.
I think that's the monastery with the relics inside. So Puppypaw is going to lose out on the relics.
Oh,
and one thing that's important to note, I'm just now realizing, Puppypaw has no market to trade with.
What? Oh, he doesn't
have a neutral market. He does have it, but it's walled away, right?
Yeah. I thought he had like no market at all. I'm like, what? Okay, so trying to protect the bombards right now. This is a all bombard and knight army. This is like reminiscent of what, the Ottomans or something. Just not Janissaries, but knights trying to protect the horsemen, and it does look like he's able to kill the horsemen. Even the bombards can take a few shots at these units if they want to.
RecoN's population is not convincing me. I feel like as much as he loves his knights, this is no longer a composition that he can work with against crossbows. He's taking very suboptimal engagements, and that's why the army count is at 17 versus 72. And despite the fact that Puppypaw's eco shouldn't be as good as RecoN's, Puppypaw is more than confident in this game.
Heck, even at this point, he could spam horsemen if he wanted. There we go, our first mangonel. I really just wonder if he had a few more of those earlier. Gonna take a hit though, those crossbows taking some damage. And gonna get another volley off, it looks like, but he goes into spread formation. So yeah, you can see he's got just enough units. He can take those mangonels off quite quickly. And Puppypaw has pushed him all the way back to his base. Bombards did survive. He still has got all his trade going on. Food has been spent for the most part, and it looks like we've got biology coming in for Puppypaw right now, as well as those roller shutter triggers. So he's gonna be able to have some spring golds to counter the mangonels he's got expector coming.
And for quite some time, Puppy wasn't able to pressure the trade. This is going to change now. He's going heavy on horsemen, and for the first time in this game, he might actually find success raiding the trade.
As we hit just about the 30-minute mark, we've got Puppypaw versus RecoN. If you're just tuning in, welcome to the Elite Gaming Finals. Puppypaw is starting to knock on the door of this trade for maybe the first time this game, really. We see those horsemen coming in. He's got biology, so he's gonna be running out the horsemen. They're quite speedy. They do have a greater speed than those knights, so they can run around, run away from the knights for a long time. But now you see trade. He's got 2 keeps, though. I think he should be able to protect this in the long run, but he's finally starting to kind of give RecoN the runaround for the first time.
I'm still wondering what the win condition is here for Puppypaw. As long as he doesn't have that market available, he is not going to have his own trade. Eventually, he runs out of gold, and that's where things could get... There's an opening there. There was always an opening, man.
Oh my gosh, this whole game. I bet RecoN's annoyed too, because he's like, I got the trap. Then he just escapes with his army. I looked at that earlier. Oh, man.
Gets out of there alive. 55 crossbows on Puppy's side. He's getting close to pop cap. RecoN is now pop capped, and now he started mixing in some Streltsy. Not the kind of unit that's going to be extremely valuable against crossbows, but it's definitely a good change-up compared to just full knights. And more importantly, he now has a lot of mangonels to work with.
crossbows, using those fire projectiles to start working on those walls, putting lots of bullets into that. And gonna be breaking that down. It looks like he's trying to break through to the trade. Bombards, though, moving forward, and this is going to be the bigger issue. He can start to try to harass the trade. Of course, there's multi-layers of walls in the labyrinth that RecoN has built, but Bombard's going to be knocking at his landmark's door. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4 landmarks all right by each other, and Bombards can very quickly snipe those out, and he's going to have to turn around and defend.
Only a single Springald out there from Puppypaw. He doesn't really have a lot of anti-siege, so he doesn't really have what it takes to take out those Mangonels.
Looks like those Bombards are just attack moving right now, but yeah, that's all a big horseman army. Needs to be careful. He could suddenly lose a ton of siege. And for the first time in the game, look at this. We got Streltsy. RecoN has learned another button to hit there. We've got Streltsy on the battlefield, so going to help defend, but Springald gets some shots off on those Mangonels. He's got another Mangonel still alive. I think he's going to be sacrificing that as he's trying to just get one more volley off on those crossbows. Puppypaw, though, with some nice micro, but will it be enough? Look at those Streltsy moving up to the front line. He actually takes down the Springald. Bombard's continuing to just pick off horsemen, it looks like, is what they're doing. And
crossbows trade fairly effective against the Streltsy, but there is also a sustainability element here. Puppypaw cannot afford to lose gold units. RecoN can.
He thinks he's playing the Ottomans, I'm convinced. Okay. Horseman, though, able to get a surround, but look at this. Bombards have a lot of HP because he does have the upgrades. He does lose one of them right now, and I mean, whatever, gold. He can just train as many more as he wants, right? It's not a big deal, but yeah, Puppypaw is taking quite a good engagement. If you look at the destruction value, and look at this, able to clean up those Bombards quite nicely. RecoN kind of struggling to get his army together to defend this push.
And now look at Puppypaw. He's at 22 Streltsy against 14 on the other side. Now, one thing that Puppypaw doesn't really have is siege to take out buildings with. But Puppypaw is holding on despite the fact that the gold income he has is just a third of what RecoN has available. Still, again, as Puppypaw is depleting his gold mines, he's not going to be able to afford losing gold units anymore. That's not the same for RecoN. RecoN can throw away any of these Streltsy, any of these knights indefinitely, because he does have infinite gold to work with.
As far as, you know, casting a mirror can go, it's at least been exciting with the fact that they went for extremely different strategies here. Look at that. 60 traders right now for RecoN. Everybody knows Rus is a big trading civilization, right? And all the trading we always hear about in the history books. And horsemen starting to take down that palisade wall, and that's going to be moving up to the trade. That is going to be probably not good for RecoN. That trade could get shut down quite quickly. That's a lot of horsemen, and this is the Imperial Age, so they will die very quickly.
And he needs that trade. He doesn't have wood income, so making a horseman switch is not really a possibility. If he loses his gold income, he's going to struggle badly. In fact, I'm just now noticing that RecoN has not even gotten double products at all.
They don't need it. No, it would. They don't need it. He's got trade.
Well, he had trade. That's what you want to say, right?
He can move to the right side. RecoN is also raiding. I see on the eastern quarter of the map.
That's a counterattack. That's a massive counterattack. But I feel like Puppypaw is more willing to lose villagers than RecoN is willing to lose traders.
Yeah, I don't know about this. This is not good. I mean, he could just start gathering regular gold again. He's got plenty of it. But
Wickle's coming in clutch here for Puppy.
Yep, right now we see this palisade wall. He's trying to break through. I wonder if he'll ever make any stone towers or something. He does have it, but he doesn't have a lot of stones, so it'd be a little bit difficult to afford that big one. But yeah, Streltsy able to stand behind that wall, get some shots on it looks like these are mostly knights. Can't tell if these are horsemen or knights. Those are knights.
Yeah, those are knights.
Yeah, so he's going to be able
knights still on the field for RecoN. He's got 35 Streltsy as well, so he still has a formidable standing army. But now he lost a lot of his trade.
This has been a just crazy Rus game. It's going to come down to the wood running out eventually, right? That's how it feels right now. We're about just shy of 40 minutes right now. We got knights and horsemen running around everywhere. Streltsy as well. Not a single barracks has been made. Oh, I stand corrected. What is this? Puppypaw's got spearmen. Look at that. 4 markets. Did he add another one? I think he did.
One thing that's interesting is that RecoN has the ability to make stone walls because he built the Spaska Tower
look at
landmark.
that.
And
there it is.
we didn't see any of that up until this very moment. It's coming in a little too late, but I think this is just enough to prevent the Streltsy from running in.
Yep. Okay, so stone walls are out on the map. And RecoN going to continue to turtle up till the end of time.
Yeah, Puppypaw was out of gold though. He's now at 700 gold per minute. That is just from relics and sacred sites. This is exactly the window where RecoN is supposed to be winning the game. His gold income is still far more superior.
And both players sitting on 200 military population. But at this point in the game, they're just about, despite a few, getting all of their upgrades, right? Or at least RecoN can get whatever he wants if he doesn't already have it. Puppypaw got to spend his gold a little more wisely or start to set up his own trade because, yeah, as you mentioned, doesn't have a great gold eco. So as he's been spamming Streltsy, eventually that gold's going to run out. Down goes the wall. There's mangonels behind it though. Not seeing a spring gold. He does have a bombard, but look at these knights coming in. RecoN going to be going after those crossbows and Streltsies. And I think it's just Streltsy.
Yeah, but that's a lot of Streltsy, man, and as they get picked off, Spearmen get mixed in here, so something that is going to hold off the Knights who will still be available for Puppy. RecoN is playing a very long and grindy game here, but looks like he's finally having the upper hand here, and that just comes down to that trade that's still in there, still providing him with 2,500 gold per minute.
Okay, so here we go, moving up. He's trying to set some stag defenses, but good luck. There's bombards there ready to take him out. Rams, of course, always annoying to deal with in the later stages of the game. We do have a spring gold moving up. Puppypaw going to take a shot. Mangonel taking that, but he can target it with his bombards, potentially if he sees it, but looks like one Mangonel will likely be going down. There it goes, exploding. And it feels like, to me, RecoN is starting to maybe get a bit of a push going, but it's looked like this several times. Back and forth, this game. 2 spring golds, 3 spring golds, so he should be able to take out those mangonels now. There you go. Very, very easy. Also going to be sniping those bombards. Pew, pew. Down they go. And Streltsy kind of playing this, what is this? Revolutionary War style. Standing out in a line in open field and taking shots.
We just went back to AoE 3 feet.
Yeah, this is AoE 3 I'm watching. I've seen this.
Oh, man. I mean, Puppypaw is still holding, but it's just a matter of reinforcements arriving for RecoN. He actually didn't have a lot of units in queue. He just now queued up a bunch of knights. No more Streltsy coming in for him. Something went a little weird here for RecoN. You would expect him to have a bunch of units in queue, and he didn't replace the units that he lost. Gives an unlikely but very much realistic opportunity for Puppypaw to shut down the trade here once again.
That stone wall went down really quickly. Was it just low on HP, or did that ram just tear through it that quickly?
I think we had bombards too. I think there were some bombards firing from the back line. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe it was damaged beforehand.
I was kind of surprised how quickly that fell, and now we see traders falling. Down, down, down they go. Streltsy and Spearmen have broken through. RecoN needs to stop the breach, and look at the eco of RecoN right now. His bank, not great.
It's bad. The trade is going down, and you know, with that stone wall partially destroyed, Puppypaw could actually position his own Streltsy at the top of the walls, and that would make it extremely difficult for RecoN to clean this up.
Yeah, he's got plenty of spring golds now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spring golds.
I think that's it. That trade is gone. That trade was just absolutely annihilated. And now when you look at the Streltsy numbers, it's neck and neck. Gold income is dropping way too rapidly here for RecoN.
Yep. Some may say this is a total destruction of the trade, although RecoN's got his own Streltsy numbers starting to grow as well. Spring golds will not kill Streltsy, at least not very effectively. But there they go. I'm waiting for this just to turn into
the walls, man. He's
not
taking the walls.
He needs our pro strats, clearly. You gotta get up on those walls, you get additional buffs for your units, but right now they're just standing still, taking the fire in an open field. I'm not gonna see any mangonels right now, considering the fact that there's so many spring golds out in the field, but RecoN seems to be cleaning this up. He needs to reestablish his trade. His eco kind of scary right now.
Few horsemen have been poking down traders for quite some time, and you actually see a keep foundation dropped by Puppy. He wants to shut this trade down, and his reinforcements are coming in quickly here. Both sides losing a lot of units here in this engagement, but it's RecoN who is suffering as a consequence. He's the one who loses the traders in the crossfire.
Yep, he continues to just spam Streltsy on both sides. We see the wall going down. The Ram takes that. Still surprised he hasn't used that, but I think these players are so used to not building stone walls. I think in the earlier stages of these games, they forget about that bonus sometimes. But RecoN, his traders continue to be caught in the crossfire. He could redirect to the trade on the east side of the map. It wouldn't be as good, but they would certainly stay alive. Maybe he doesn't care.
Puppypaw is now losing out on his Streltsy though. He doesn't have a consistent influx of those units, but he does have a lot of horsemen, and that's not something that RecoN has an answer to, and RecoN opts to tap out of this one. Puppypaw takes game number 2.
Look at that. What was that? A 45-minute Roosmere, just what we signed up for here today with the Elite Gaming Channel Finals. And man, oh man, that was definitely not your average Roosmere, I would say the least. What was that? We had a trade boom happening at like the 5-8 minute mark, something crazy like that, versus 2 TC into only knights for like 30 minutes. That game was absolutely wild.
That was a wild game, and you know, oftentimes people criticize mirrors, but this one was one of the more entertaining ones.
Yeah.
Very different approaches taken by both of these players, but we've ended up with a very entertaining game. It's hard to say where this slipped for RecoN, but maybe he was just a little too reluctant to change up his unit composition. And there were definitive windows where he had the upper hand. It's just that he kept grinding units into essentially counter units. And despite the fact that he did have that gold advantage, the lack of efficiency ultimately allowed Puppypaw to shut down his trade.
Well, and when both players are sitting on 200 pop for a significant amount of time, it does come down to your unit composition, how you control your military. What is your military strategy? And I felt like this game, it seemed like RecoN, can we look at the eco stats one more time? RecoN had to have the better eco there, I would imagine there.
Certainly.
But Puppypaw just executed really, really well with that military. And the total resources doesn't exactly show what we're looking for. It's on the overview tab, but it's okay. But I guess the statistics. All these end screens. There you go. Well, actually, look at that. The food, wood, and stone. But look at the gold. Almost 80k gold from RecoN.
It's actually a little deceiving when you look at these numbers, though, because Puppypaw had a lot more food. And given that RecoN played so heavy into knights, I'm starting to feel like he got bottlenecked at important moments by the lack of food. He had a lot of gold to work with, but it really feels like he was just bottlenecked by food. Lack of wood also meant that he might have been partially bottlenecked in terms of wood when it comes to mixing in siege, and he just didn't really have this composition available to deal with those mass crossbows initially to force a decisive fight before this gets to late game.
Yep. Okay, so that gets us ready for game number 3, and it's going to be yet another mirror. We've got Japanese versus the Japanese on 4 legs, and there have been some balance changes for them, but it's not going to matter. It is another mirror matchup. Will we see a 5-minute trade or something? I'm not sure what it might be, but if you're just tuning in, welcome to the Elite Gaming Channel Finals. This is the group stage, so right now you've got Puppypaw versus RecoN. We've got a bunch of other series. I know we've got some beautiful cards around here. I'm not sure. We'll see if our wonderful production staff behind the scenes could maybe hit you guys with some of those. But I hope you're enjoying some Age of Empires 4 esports here on this lovely Saturday, whether you're sitting back relaxing on the couch or sitting at your computer. There we go. Look at that. Puppypaw and RecoN. Lidakor, you want to take us through some of these stats?
Oh, certainly. So the way that we've gotten these folks is that we had the players rate each other behind the scenes, and then we just average these out by 6 categories, actually make it 7. Micro, macro, of course, self-explanatory. Attack, defense, something that varies between a lot of these players. And then, of course, you have some metrics that are more related to style rather than skill. Talk about aggressiveness and creativity. And, of course, the good old-fashioned speed for your classic APM metric, I guess. What you see here is that based on everybody's ratings in this tournament, the 2 players are kind of neck and neck when it comes to their overall assessment of skills.
Well, I mean, I want to know what Twitch chat thinks. What do you think is the most important category here? Everybody knows, I mean, speed is I mean, above all else. If you're speedy, I mean, good luck keeping up. I mean, I think we could have a category perhaps for best
For
facial
hair.
hair. I think, yeah, I think facial hair. I mean, Puppypaw, look at that. He's got the beard going there. RecoN, clean shaven, smooth as a baby's bottom. I mean, you got to think this is affecting these guys as they get into the nitty gritty of what 45-minute games. I mean, probably Paul sitting back there, 200 pop, stroking that beard, deciding where he's going to go next with his army. And whoa, look at this screen. Now we've got Group A, C, B, and D. Got just a little bit of the whole alphabet here for you, and you can see the different matchups. Lidakor, you want to tell them a little more about this screen?
Indeed, as you see, folks, 12 players in this tournament split into 4 groups with a round robin having been played between all of those. And as you will see, by the end of the day, we'll only have 1 player from each group eliminated. 2 will advance to the playoffs. First 2 spots in each of these groups will advance. And the scores that are still set at 0-0, those are sets coming up today. But I hear that the game is ready. We'll be jumping into game number 3 of this best of 5 between Puppypaw and RecoN.
And as we get into game number 3 of the Elite Gaming Finals group stage, we've got a Japanese mirror, one of our newest civilizations. And we'll be interested to see if there's any variance in this mirror, like we kind of saw in that last one with the roost. Both players opening up with fishing. Of course, the Japanese have a little bit of cheaper fishing boats, so always good to go for that. Not to mention those deep water fish are going to be one of the best gather rates in the game as far as food goes. And we've got a little bit of a update here for you behind the scenes. If Puppypaw is able to win this one, Lucifron will be facing up against Marine Lord in the quarterfinals. So maybe a little bit of the outcome from this game.
Yeah, that's a big one here because it's not just about the outcome for these 2 players in particular, but the 3rd player in the group and the tiebreakers, the way they go, that actually influences the placement of the 3rd player oftentimes. So indeed, if Puppypaw wins, that actually puts Puppypaw to the top of the group. In fact, Puppypaw, if he wins this series, he's going to be at a 2-0 set record. So if he wins the set, he secures the 1st place in the group. That puts Lucifron to the 2nd place, and it actually pits him against Marine Lord, a group winner within his own respective group.
I think we got to have it where, like, if you're the #1 seed in your groups, you get home field advantage. You get to have like the LAN in your house with your fans there cheering you on. Like we gotta up the ante here. These players got to fly around the world. I think Pessy's working on the budget. He set up a trade route a little bit ago. He's got a lot of gold coming in, so perhaps we'll get that. I think we got that, like, what was that? That next tier of Twitch. What's it called?
I think it's called Partner Plus.
Partner Plus. Ooh, man, yes. And thank you to everybody who's been supporting the channel. Of course, with those subs, donos, whatever it is, your guys' support helps make esports events like this possible. So thank you so much and continue to do so. It's the season of giving. So make sure you get out your grandmother's Twitch Prime, hit up EGC TV, and you also get some little fun emotes with it as well as the Japanese start to gather the fish out here on 4 lakes.
Yeah, so looking at this matchup, Fitz, Japanese versus Japanese, we know how powerful the Japanese are on 4 lakes. The Shinobi and their ability to shut down the enemy docks is just immensely valuable in any matchup. But in this one, it actually gets a very weird and chaotic, because at the end of the day, both players will have the opportunity to harass each other's docks with Shinobi.
General Shinobi, will that be the option? I think you're right. I think we're gonna see that. The power of the Shinobi is probably the strongest of water maps. I'm not sure that when I first heard about this unit in this landmark, that water maps is what came to mind for me right away. But it's definitely been probably the most powerful use of the Shinobi, certainly.
It works very well when the dock that you're building is far away from your base, because otherwise you can just pull a villager to repair it, especially when you have a couple of troops to actually get rid of the Shinobi. But when you have maps where you're willing to place docks far away from your base, and that is going to be a thing eventually, players will move out towards the neutral bonds, that's where those Shinobi can come in very valuable.
And there you see it, the Coca Township being trained up A lot of villagers on that. 6 villagers. Puppypaw actually going to be aging up a little more quickly here. And, you know, we talked about the metric. Speed. Is speed going to come into play here? As Puppypaw is moving up to the next age. RecoN's still working. He's got actually a second dock. So he's on both ponds or both lakes right now, where Puppypaw is only on the one there on the west side.
Yeah, Puppypaw is playing the standard build here on 4 lakes. 1 dock fishing into Feudal Age. Whereas RecoN is doing something very different here. He actually moved out to 2 ponds, but I'm not so sold on this strategy just yet. My concern for RecoN is that Shinobi will be most effective when it comes to harassing that second dock. And the fact that he's delaying his Feudal Age so badly could be an issue. Now, the way that this could work for him is essentially facilitating a semi-fast castle, because right now his economy is going to be somewhat more powerful compared to Puppypaw's. So all that fishing eco that he has might allow him to beat him to Castle Age.
Well, and I guess he's going, what, for 2 docks on each of these. So he's maybe saying, like, okay, you bring the Shinobi, but you're only getting 1 of these. Maybe that's some of his strategy going on here right now. But we're about to see some Shinobi coming out on the map. And what is this? Puppypaw trying to build a dock. Look at that little sneaky devil. Almost gets it, but the villagers take it down. Puppypaw going to turn right back around, though.
Surprising that he didn't build this all the way in the corner. I think he saw that RecoN placed something in the corner. Yeah, RecoN built a dock so that he can see if the enemy is placing a dock over here, and he's actually done a good job shutting down this dock placement from Puppypaw so far. Puppypaw should have a Shinobi coming in soon, though, and once that arrives, I don't think that RecoN can stay a lot longer.
Now, hold on a second. Is he blocking the dock or is he deleting fish? This is a very important distinction we have going on here. That's a Palisades.
He's actually blocked some good dock spots, but I think Puppypaw found a window, and now it's going to be the dance of the Shinobi, folks.
Yep, here we go. Shinobi running around, and it's going to get quite interesting. It's going to be Shinobi running all over the battlefield, those little ninjas. And scouts out there is able to see them as they sneak across the map. None of them have disguised themselves. It could get really confusing if they start changing changing into each other with a mirror match, of course. But
Puppypaw managed to get the villager, though.
Yep. So if we look at the eco at the top of the screen, Puppypaw down a little bit because, of course, RecoN has started a little earlier on the second lake, so it's a little bit of an eco advantage. Got Shinobi running around. Of course, Puppypaw has more of those 4 Shinobi on the map.
Yeah, you have a lot of docks here for RecoN. Double docks on both of his own ponds. He's going to be super heavily committed to fishing, and that could actually pull him ahead when it comes to economy. He's just going to defend with Shinobi here on his old gold mine. Looks very awkward and janky, but it's going to work out for him, I feel. It's not like Puppypaw can beat Shinobi on Shinobi.
And I've got some really, really important information. I saw Twitch chat was wondering who is ahead right now. And I want to assure you that the Japanese are definitely ahead in this game so far as we reach the 7-minute mark. And you see Puppypaw dropping down another house there at home. And for right now, it's just Shinobi all over the map. Trying to defend with Shinobi, trying to attack with Shinobi. It's you live and die by the Shinobi.
Yeah, RecoN is investing into multiple archer ships as well. He is definitely reliant on his fishing eco, and he's going to try and protect that. But I'm not sure if those investments actually pay off here. It's a little tricky, because Puppypaw is now on 2 pawns as well. He is essentially accomplishing the same thing eco-wise as RecoN, but his own fishing eco isn't being pressured.
Yep, all the pressure's definitely been on RecoN. Puppypaw's just been chilling back here behind this, and for right now, it's kind of a bit of a stalemate. We got Shinobi staring at each other through their masks across the field, and we've got fishermen just having a great time on their ponds. It looks like both have secured their own lakes, but haven't been able to put down a dock on the other side of the map. And a lot of gold in queue. So Puppypaw looking like getting ready to move up towards the Castle Age. That's what he is macroing for right now.
Yeah, the fact that we have so many gold miners and the fact that RecoN saw this means that RecoN now knows that his opponent is going castle. Same goes for RecoN. He's so heavy on the gold that anything but a castle age here is near impossible. So both players are racing towards castle age, but Puppypaw is the one who has the upper hand. And part of the reason why is because he never had to invest into any defenses on his own pawns. No combat ships, no defensive towers nearby. He only has one defensive tower on his gold, and that's it. Whereas for RecoN, he had to invest into a lot of defenses back at home because of this aggression.
Poof! Down goes the scout and gets it. At the last second. That's about the most action we have here for right now. As you can see, both have just kind of resorted to sitting back, going for the H up. Now the floating gate, if we could take a look at it got a little bit of a rework here in the most recent patch. It used to spawn these Yoshiro right on the ground, then you'd pick them up and put them in buildings, and they would infinitely spawn. Now, Yoshiro can only exist in the hands of a Shinto priest or be garrisoned inside of a building. So it's a little bit different. You don't start with 2 of them right away. So instead, you get these priests, you pop one into a building, and then you can get another one. So it's a little bit different now.
And that was a massive rework of the Yorishiros, and in many ways that was a nerf to them. For the time being, it's probably not going to be that much of a factor, though, because it's not like we have many of those on the field yet. But one thing that's a big difference maker is that Puppypaw is already up to Castle Age. RecoN is nowhere close. He manages to torch down 1 dog, but that's it, and look at this. So many samurai queued up, and one thing that's important about the shinobi is that they are very fragile. In a prolonged engagement against samurai, they will just lose.
Yep. Okay, so we've got the Castle Age for Puppypaw. RecoN trying to follow him up, but a little bit behind, kind of similar to the earlier stages of the game. But his eco is technically a little bit stronger, so I mean, you've got time for the samurai to move across the field. He's also, you can see there, using that priest to grab some of those relics. And in fact, he puts that first Yoshiro in the barracks. Look at that. So speeding up that production. So he's kind of giving it almost like, you know, daily efficient production, or maybe you want to think of it as like a Burgrave treatment or something. He's just going to spam out his infantry. And I think that's what we're going to be seeing here out of Puppypaw.
Yeah, now, Puppypaw is doing something very smart here. As you said, now the Yorishiro spawns in the hands of a Shinto priest. Means that you have a Shinto priest to start with, the one that just got assassinated by the shinobi. But what's important here is that he didn't actually... I don't think he even has a monastery, but even if he does, he didn't drop the relic inside. He dropped it at the edge of his base, so he can maximize the amount of relics that he can get close to his base. And the concept here was that he wanted to move out for the second relic, got assassinated in the process.
Okay, so bringing those shinobi back home, but RecoN doesn't quite have his military production cranking just yet. Puppypaw, though, moving in, we got samurai and shinobi, and going to be pushing RecoN off of gold, and this could be a big deal here in the long run, because if he can deny gold and he's able to just keep flooding in samurai, there's no way RecoN will be able to keep up. Now, he could go to the gold on the north side, but for right now, RecoN seems to be putting up a deep defense right now, but I don't know. Samurai.
It's 17 samurai against 6, and there's a katana bannerman out there now. So there's a massive combat advantage for Puppypaw right now. He's grabbing Nodachis. He's actually managed to light that tower on fire with one of the shinobi. And now the bannerman is helping out the samurai here so much. RecoN is losing villagers, and you see RecoN has 3 samurai with 1 in a queue as compared to 17 with 5 in queue. Massive discrepancy when it comes to the samurai numbers.
Yeah, and that bannerman adds so much extra there in these fights. And he's continuing. Look at it, he's getting the upgrade for the samurai as well. So Puppypaw could just flood this army into the base to the end of the time. And for a game that kind of had a lot of build up here, a lot of feudal action, could be over very quickly here if RecoN can't do something to stabilize him. I really don't know what he can do at this point.
I feel like there is just not much for him left to do. He's trying to make a switch to Onamusha, which is a counter to the samurai, but at this point only a handful of Onamusha will not change the outcome of this game. RecoN has to flee from his base as well, having depleted his own wood line. He's down to just 12 military, 4 samurai only against 14. The momentum is just heavily in the favor of Puppypaw right now.
Yep, the samurai, you can see, stay alive for a very long time. Finally gonna be taking him out. So samurai warfare, definitely, if that's what you wanted, here it is. For now, RecoN has killed a few of these. It looks like maybe getting a little bit of stabilization. He's actually brought his villagers to the gold on the north. I actually see both those gold veins. So that might have been just what he needed, though. is that he can stop this initial push. Maybe he can start to push back. He's got, of course, plenty of fishing boats out there. He's gathering his gold. But Puppypaw seems to be kind of remassing right now as he's been also getting all these relics, as you can see.
Yeah, he's just slowed this game down. He realized that he doesn't want to keep sending units into the enemy towers, so he's regrouping now. Does have a massive army lead, although RecoN is actually on track when it comes to the samurai numbers. He's up to 16. He doesn't have a bannerman, and he doesn't have the Nodachi upgrade either. More importantly, he's now going to be facing a 4-relic opponent.
Yep. Okay, so we'll see what happens here as RecoN, you know, adding a few of those Onimusha to help counter those samurai. Also, some walls for Puppypaw going to be coming in, trying to stop, I guess, probably any incursions on his western lake. And there we have it, going to be backing up. Oh, the charge coming in. Yeah, you see him with the swords moving forward. Going up there, of course, that deflective armor, but I guess they both have it in a matchup like this. And there's Onimusha going to be handing out some additional DPS in fights like this. So an interesting unit composition decision. Both of them going with some differences here. But just the mass samurai seem to be clashing and clanking here. It almost looks like they do no damage at first just because they survive for so long.
Yeah, the Onimusha are very valuable here on RecoN's side, and the thing is that they are completely untouched on the back line because it takes so much time for the Puppypaw to take down the front line. And this composition is now starting to be a lot better. In many ways, Puppypaw is doing the same thing that RecoN did in the previous game, having an upper hand when it comes to economy and production, but sending a single type of unit into the meat grinder
and one person making crossbows. It does feel like the same thing from last game on the other side.
Still, it's going to be 4 relics and the sacred site for Puppypaw. He does have a considerable gold income. He's actually walling off the map, preparing for what could be a long game. But I just feel like if Puppypaw started doing the exact same thing, mixing in some Onimusha, he would just be able to beat his opponent based on sheer eco-efficiency. Although, when it comes to eco-efficiency, as much as the gold is better for Puppypaw because of the relics, there's a big difference in the food income, actually. RecoN leveraging that double pond eco a lot more than his opponent does.
Here we go, gonna be pushing into the samurai. RecoN, it was looking grim there for a moment, but he's stabilized, got her on the map. And you look at the army count, RecoN actually has a pretty nice one. Puppypaw having the relic advantage certainly right now, but a little bit of a tussle here over the sacred sites. RecoN haven't stabilized, could actually do quite a bit. I'm kind of interested to see how this unit composition works in the long run, because Puppypaw, it doesn't look like it has stopped making samurai. He just continues to spam samurai.
Again, it's just a deja vu from the previous game. I just don't understand the concept of going for simply samurai here for Puppypaw. Now, he's banking up resources. Makes me wonder if he wants to go into Imperial. But a timing attack from RecoN could be devastating here. He's got 43 samurai against 31, and 14 Onimusha as well. I think RecoN is in a great spot now.
Yep, and looking at the pop, it looks like, look at this population alone. RecoN's sitting hovering around 160. We're about 118 for Puppypaw. So I'm kind of surprised he's sitting back. Maybe he could just feel that he's in a little bit of a strong spot right now. But Puppypaw going for the age up. The gunsmith, 26 villagers building that, and this got a little bit of an, I'd say, a nerf in the patch this week. So Zutsu not going to be as absolutely crazy as they used to be, but still certainly going to be a good landmark to have. Perhaps even more so, maybe getting these Imperial Samurai upgrades could really impact this next fight.
Yeah, the moment this landmark hits, RecoN needs to go. He needs to fight this before the upgrades come in for Puppypaw, and he has what it takes to take it down. 56 samurai against 33, 15 Onimusha as well, a mangonel, a bannerman to buff the whole army. Puppypaw needs to buy some time to get the upgrades because he's outnumbered 2-1. He needs that quality over quantity.
And he's not even going for the Zutsus. He's getting the hand cannons right away, which also have the best voice line in the entire game. I don't know if we can hear that in the rec here, but here we go. Going to grab those upgrades. I'm charging in right now. We got the Onimusha on the front, on the back line. Those are basically the quote crossbow unit for the Japanese. They counter heavy, so you see right now able to do a lot of DPS, and we've got a long line of samurai fighting it off. Mangonels on the backline also providing some additional support, and RecoN was able to absolutely clean up this fight. Look at this.
This was an atrocious fight for Puppypaw. He took this engagement before the elite upgrade came in for the samurai. Like, I'm not sure if he just didn't know how big RecoN's army was or what happened there, but he just slammed his only army. He slammed it against RecoN's much superior force. Not just in terms of numbers, but also the counters. Onimusha is not something that Puppypaw had an answer to, and now he's facing 87 troops with his own 28. RecoN is not out of this one just yet. 185 population against 104. Looks like we will be taken to game number 4 here, folks.
Yeah, you know, just when I thought maybe RecoN would say, you know, let's tank this series to try to get a high draft pick for next season, he's got plenty of fight left in him, and this series it almost went for a 3-0. RecoN looking like perhaps he is going to be taking this game.
Yeah, and really, it comes down to compositions, just like the previous game did. RecoN this time around was the player to make the counter unit to the Mass Samurai, survived the initial waves, and honestly, I didn't think that he was going to survive as long as he did. But the Onimusha being mixed in and no response from Puppypaw coming out to the Onimusha was just something that essentially lost the game from Puppypaw.
I'm just saying, if there are some RecoN fans in the chat, they've definitely not been spamming enough of those signature raccoons. I haven't seen a single one of them out there, so if you're a fan, make sure you let us know about it. There we go. Lidakor's got him. Look at that. The rack attack.
Puppypaw is trying to remass over here, but he's outnumbered 3-1. He's got only a handful of hand cannoneers. And sure thing, you do have the Imperial upgrades, but there's a counter unit on the opposing side. Way too many Onimusha to deal with. This will take us to game number 4 here, folks. RecoN, staying alive in this series off the back of the Onimusha, wins the first game of his in this series.
There you have it, a Japanese mirror. The Japanese, of course, coming out victorious. And with that, RecoN got a little bit of life here. Makes me wonder what might be coming out next. It did really feel like that was like deja vu of that Roosmere we watched. It just kind of was the other side around. Like the previous game, Puppypaw made tons of crossbows, right, to counter the heavy. In this game, Puppypaw went for purely samurai, and RecoN was the one with making the Onimusha there on the back line. So a little bit of back and forth, but that'll get us ready for, I guess, game number 4 of this group stage. This is all part of the Elite Gaming Channel Finals. This is the finest of Age of Empires 4 esports. Hope you guys are enjoying this lovely Saturday afternoon, morning, evening, wherever it is where you are in the world. And we're getting ready to see what our next game is going to be. Oh, the Battle of the Green Civilizations. We've got the Ottomans versus the Delhi Sultanate.
Okay, we are heading into Dry Arabia, which is a home map selection originally picked by Puppypaw. This is where we have to take a look at the previous selections, though, something that we weren't able to touch on. Gorge, game number 2, was the home map of Puppypaw. RecoN opted to take that, and then we went to the first home map selection of RecoN, that was 4 likes. And now we are using up the second home map here from Puppypaw, Dry Arabia. Means that if we go to game number 5, RecoN is going to be playing that on his own home map, Hidden Valley.
Okay, so Dry Arabia, Ottomans. I mean, we kept thinking, okay, RecoN with all those bombards earlier felt like he was an Ottoman main or something going on back there. But we got Delhi coming out, very aggressive civilization. Ottomans also known for being really aggressive, or going for, you know, some fast castle plays here. So I would be surprised if we don't see RecoN just coming out guns ablazing here against the Ottomans in this matchup. I mean, might be a little bit Dark Age action with the Spearman, but usually the Scholar can negate any of that harassment you might do here. So we're just going to wait and see as we get ready for game number 4. Hope chat's having a great time here today on EGC TV, and we've got a bunch of groups for you. So this is only the very beginning, and we've had some really crazy matches. I think that game 2 really stood out to me. As far as mirrors go, that was quite a fun and interesting one. But
as far as games go, it was a fun one.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we're getting ready to load in here to game number 4 just momentarily as it gets ready. And here it comes. So this is going to be Ottomans versus Delhi, Dry Arabia. And let's get ready for it. Welcome to game number 4 of RecoN versus Puppypaw. This is the Elite Gaming Finals, the group stage. And as it stands right now, Puppypaw came out swinging in the series. RecoN finally get himself a little bit of points on the board. Let's see if he can get even more here today as he's playing the Delhi Sultanate up against Puppypaw's Ottomans. Going to be a fun, kind of a classic matchup here on Dry Arabia.
It certainly is a classic matchup. Not the classic that you would see at the launch of the game 2 years ago, but one that has been with us for quite some time, Ottomans, Delhi. A lot of feudal ejection is what most people expect in this setup. Both of these civilizations starting to come online in that period, with the Ottomans, of course, relying heavily on Sipahi archers in the matter, and of course the Delhi having to leverage these sacred sites and turning that into a flood of Ghazi raiders and archers.
Yep, and just to highlight a few things about these civilizations as we kind of get into this game. I know there's a lot of new and returning players to Age of Empires 4. All of the AoE4 stocks are definitely up right now. We'll cover a few of the basics for you. So when you look at these two civilizations, you've got the Delhi Sultanate, and the Delhi Sultanate, one of the very unique thing about them is they get their techs for free. So you see right now he's got techs coming in at his mill, he's got techs coming in at his mosque, and the caveat of that is the techs take a long time to come in, and you can offset this by training scholars, which is their religious unit. So you bank these scholars up and you can get your techs a little faster, but basically you're free, and you basically, by the time you get mid-feudal age, you can bet they've probably got most or not all their blacksmith upgrades. They're gonna have all their eco techs. And then on the other side, when you look at the Ottomans, their unique thing is they train units for free out of this cool military school. And of course, like everything free, it comes in slowly, but you can upgrade that by building it next to a blacksmith. So kind of some unique things out of both these civilizations. And I think one of the things that really shines with me for Delhi in the feudal age is just that efficient production. You can garrison a scholar inside of maybe your stable, and you can just so quickly spam out units. It basically makes it like you have 2 stables right away. So we'll probably see that come into play here as we get to the next stage.
Tower of Victory is going to be the landmark of choice here for RecoN. A landmark that's usually the more popular between the two options here for Feudal Age of the Delhi, but it's definitely something that shows that you want to play heavily into the archers. Now, in a normal matchup like this, Tower of Victory is something that gives an upper hand to the Delhi in archer fights, giving you that attack buff for your infantry. But that's not so much the case for a matchup against the Ottomans. Against the Ottomans, it is just something that offsets the discrepancy that's there because of the matter being available to the Ottomans and buffing their infantry. One big difference to look at, though, is that the Tower of Victory buff on units is permanent, whereas matters can be taken out of fights. And I think this is going to make it extremely important for Puppypaw to micro his matter well.
Yep, and he's just about done with that. I'm looking at where some of these berries have spawned for both of these guys. I think RecoN's got down on the south side. His next expansion maybe on to the north of his base. Puppypaw's got one kind of toward the front. For Delhi, they typically like to go for these. Of course, they can't hunt the boar. The boar will be safe in this game, but have those berry buffs, of course. So doing some scouting, you see RecoN kind of circling around, seeing what might be going on. And this is something you see a lot at these high levels. When your opponent's reaching the next stage, you want to kind of just circle their base with the scouts, say, okay, what's going on? Now, scouting stone against Ottomans, that could just be military schools. You don't know if it's 2TC or if it's military schools. Typically, if you see more on stone, it probably leads to it's going to be a 2TC play. But there's that stable. We kind of expect we might see, and we'll see if he puts a scholar inside there, maybe even for some efficient production and some fast Ghazi Raider spam.
You usually open with Ghazi Raiders when you're playing Delhi, simply because you do want to have a little bit of, I guess, movement advantage, mobility advantage over your opponent. And also because if you're playing into Ghazi Raiders, that forces your opponent to mix in some spearmen, potentially. And if you want to play heavily into the archers, the fact that your opponent is mixing in spearmen at the beginning is something that can give you an upper hand.
You know, now that they introduced olive oil in the game, I think everybody should get olive oil. And if Byzantines aren't in the game, you could trade to the off-map Byzantines for Byzantine units, right? That would be something.
Would be an awkward change, that's for sure. Anyway, just looking at the armies right now, first Ghazi Raider on the way for RecoN. Puppypaw. He's actually very heavy on stone. Now, this could be for military schools, but it could also be for a second TC build, something that we've seen being fairly popular among Ottomans. Ottomans really start coming online in like that mid-late Castle Age with the free units that they're getting. And until then, they don't really have that mass production potential. If you play with 2 TCs, your eco buildup is a lot quicker, so you can actually facilitate production of units a lot better. And supplemented by the free units that you're getting out of the military schools, that can be a devastating force.
And we do see RecoN there with 2 blacksmiths, so that's going to be... With most of you would never build a second blacksmith, there's just no reason to, but you're able to get all those queues or text queued up for the Delhi Sultanate. So RecoN continuing to scout his opponent, kind of seeing what's going on, or he's just taunting him with his haul of sheep. That's also another way you could do it. Throwing a lot of villagers onto gold there, so probably going to be to train some more scholars. Do you think this is a move for Castle Age? Probably not. I mean, you don't really have any other need for gold here for Delhi, except for training scholars or aging up.
Yeah, now there's the second town center coming up, and when RecoN sees that, he should have a quick reaction to this. Now, you can do multiple things here with the Delhi, and I feel like the best course of action would be to play aggressive. 2 TCs from the Ottomans essentially means that they will be playing a condensed base. You can just see that based on the location of the second TC. And that means that they are likely forfeiting most of the map control. That's an invitation for RecoN to take the sacred sites with the Delhi, and then use that extra resource income to play aggressive and punish Puppypaw, who's very heavily focused on his eco.
Yep, we see RecoN chasing down that scout. Just wants to try to deny some of that intel that Puppypaw's trying to get right now. And he has, in fact, been training up some scholars, and I think we'll see a move for those sacred sites soon. Delhi is the only civilization that can take the sacred sites in the Second Age. Can Joan of Arc take them in the Second Age? I don't think she can.
Honestly, I am unsure.
I know she
I
can
haven't
take
really
sacred
played
sites.
a lot of Jean, so I actually don't know if you can. But anyway, one thing is sure, Delhi can, assuming that there is no grumpy spearman preventing you from doing that.
And there is one on that south sacred site.
Puppypaw lost his scout here. He's gonna be so heavily deprived of vision.
Yep, and he's able to deny that sacred site for now. The 2 at the top a little bit closer together. If you think all the way back to launch, it used to be you could get the Sanctity upgrade in the Dark Age and have these sacred sites super early. People were like towering these things up at the start of the game, and it was crazy. It was a fun time to play Delhi for sure.
Yeah, RecoN, he's actually prioritizing siege engineering here. Now, you could just say, hey, he gets that upgrade for free, but hold on for a moment, because he's actually taking that ahead of some of the blacksmith upgrades. He's actually having melee attack coming in right now for him, but instead of ranged attack, which would be something that's pretty substantial for his archer army, or would be archer army, he's actually prioritizing siege engineering. But he has no desire to fight this in feudal. He actually wants to get to Castle Age and play a fast castle.
And just now has the resources. There we go. Compound the Fender coming in. So that landmark is going to be decreasing the cost of stone. So can build some more keeps out on the map, cheaper town centers, whatever it might be. But also has some unique upgrades. So you see him kiting back, waiting. He's heading up to the next stage. And that's how this is going to kind of play out. 2 TC versus a Castle Age Delhi opponent.
This is a very intriguing approach that RecoN is taking here. Not something that you see conventionally. When you are facing a 2 TC opponent and you're 1 TC, the usual way to play this is playing aggressive. You actually replace the compound of the defender somewhere, right? The progress restarted.
Oh, what? Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he must have canceled it somewhere.
Must have been exposed before, maybe? He thought I was going to get denied? Interesting. Wow.
Yeah, but anyway, the key thing here is that what RecoN is probably playing for is keeps, because the Delhi have the ability to make villagers on keeps once they get the village fortresses tech. So the way that RecoN is going to play this is that for now he's going to offset the eco difference with the sacred sites and soon the relics, but ultimately he wants to catch up in terms of villagers just by having those keeps around and training villagers from those. And don't forget, the Delhi take a long time to get their techs, so the sooner he gets to Castle Age, the sooner he can start grabbing those key technologies.
Yep, and there you have it. RecoN has reached the Castle Age and will start be training. Has he made any barracks? Is he going for some man-arms or anything like that? What military production does he have in base? He's got a stable, 1 barracks, 1 archer range. Could do some efficient production on either of those, but right now he's queuing up every single technology, as you can kind of see there at the top left of the screen. And has been pushed off sacred sites, which isn't ideal. You kind of want to have some of that passive gold to be able to afford some of these units in the Castle Age if you've gone 1 TC up there. Also probably is going to make a dash for some of these relics out on the map. As you see, Puppypaw is kind of circling the relics. He's got an army on the relics in the middle. He's got an army on the relics on the north side. And Puppypaw is aging up himself with the Imperial Armory.
I feel like this is too slow for RecoN. He's actually going to find a villager here on the walls. That's a nice pickup. But the fact that Puppy is going to match his Castle Age timing is problematic for RecoN. He's down by 10 eco, he doesn't have a single sacred site. And when Puppypaw gets the Castle Age, he can pop the Vizier card for the Imams and start racing towards these relics himself. I feel like, as crazy as it sounds like, well, this is what RecoN has been prepping. This is going to turn into almost an all-in style approach here. 2 sneaky barracks trying to flank Puppypaw, and this could come as a nasty surprise for Puppy.
He's heading towards the gold. Look at that. He's going straight to the gold with those man-arms. Horsemen could go to the other goal. He's drawn the army of Puppypaw by bringing these horsemen nearby. Those man-arms will be undefended against right now. Not to mention, I mean, maybe he could call in some Janissaries, but really doesn't have anything to really deal with those man-arms quite yet. There's some Janissaries.
Yeah, this is such a lovely move. And the cavalry from the south pulled the army to the south as well, so there was nothing that stands against these men-at-arms. And that's a big tech advantage there. It's a Castle Age unit against essentially a Feudal Age army, only archers nearby. Meteor does help a little, so does the Town Center, but this is a suboptimal engagement here for Puppypaw, and he has 15 of his villagers idled as a consequence.
I can't help but to think if his plan was to go for a man-arms spam, if he'd been better off go with the House of Learning and getting the upgrade, but maybe his Compound Defender and Village Fortress could be better in the long run, but I guess it really wouldn't be researched by now anyways.
I feel like the upgrade Owned Blades takes too much time here for RecoN. He needed this strike before Castle Age units can come out for Puppy. And you see, he already has 5 crossbows in queue. Once those come out, the men-at-arms will quickly drop when it comes to quality and, I guess, added efficiency or value. Lancers are coming in, though, and RecoN is doubling down on this. This is exactly what RecoN needs to do to take this to game number 5. Just pound the rock while it's still crumbling. And Puppypaw is struggling very badly here. He's losing a lot of troops, a lot of his villagers are idle right now. I think Puppy is going to survive this, but the damage on his eco is going to be substantial.
Yep. Okay, so right now we see RecoN continuing to push in here. We've got the Janissaries clean up the remaining man-at-arms. And yeah, a lot of idle time there. You can see his food very, very low, so he was able to do some good economic damage.
Yeah, one thing I disliked here for RecoN is that he didn't use this distraction to pick up relics. He had all the map control because Puppy was so distracted by this counterattack, but we still have 0 relics out there for RecoN. He just now picked up the first one, and now it's 33 army against 11. Puppypaw had his eco shut down, but he does have the military scores, which still provide a consistent influx of troops. And now you're getting close to the stage where this sneak is no longer going to be relevant. Eco is neck and neck, but Puppy is going to get a lot of units for free. I feel like RecoN may have missed his window.
Yep, and he now sees that barracks up on the north side. He can bring his army there to surround that, and you see that is what he's doing, moving into position. Here comes another knight running in, but with Janissaries, you know, hiding around, that's not going to do a ton of damage here. A lot of villagers on gold.
RecoN has a lot of food in the bank. I cannot possibly imagine what he's thinking about right now. He's not using any of those resources at all, which prompts me to think about the super crazy idea of a fast Imperial, but I just don't see any value in that. Like, I'm not even sure why he's stacking up resources, but I guess there is the answer.
The answer is, unfortunately, RecoN had his power cut out here, which was looking like it was going pretty well for him. But he has decided to give the win to Puppypaw. So this one will be an admin decision, or rather, I guess, RecoN's decision to throw the game over to Puppypaw.